All right, Maidelis, you mentioned that you struggle with the square root method and that you prefer factoring, which I can understand. Everybody got their own preference. But so I just want to do maybe one or two. I'm looking at your problem that you did and you use factoring. You can actually use the square root method with that one, right? So let's go through it. So you were given b squared equal to 16, right? And you did perfectly. You found your answer and everything. That's fine. But let's look at the square root method. All right, so the first thing you want to do is to isolate the square root term. And it is already isolated, right? So you have the b squared, and that's what you have. Usually what you do is, all you have to do is kind of square root the square root term. And that's what we're going to do. And here we're taking the square root of b squared. And then we have to do the same thing on the other side. But now we have to be we have to understand that the b here that is being squared, b represent any real number, meaning that it could either be positive or negative, right? So if I square a negative number, it's going to be squared. If I square a positive number, it's also going to be squared, right? And obviously that's going to give me 16 in this case. All right. So I have to represent that. So they're not showing me the plus and the minus, but you have to understand that my result, what b is going to be, can either be plus or minus. So I have to put the plus and the minus right in front of the 16 and then put the square root of it. Okay. To show that I'm going to have two answers, just like you found -4 and +4 for your problem. Now with the square root method, you're going to have to put the plus and the minus to take into account that you have a plus and a minus answer. Okay, and it only applies to the exponents that are even. Okay, moving on. So we know that the square root of b squared, the square root takes care of the square, so we just have b as an answer. And then we know that you have the plus and the minus, and then the square root of 16 is 4. And that's it. You only have two steps. Once you understand this part right here, then that's it. You have one more step. B is equal to plus and -4. So basically this is the same thing as saying b is equal to 4 or b equal to -4. That's exactly what it means. The plus minus together, that's what it means. Okay? So let's do maybe the problem that you struggle with. Let me do one of them. So for example, and we're going to use the square root method. So 0 is equal to d plus 5 squared minus 72. Okay? So here we have a square term, which is the d plus 5 square. That's my square root. That's my square term. Okay? And that's what I want to isolate. So therefore, that -72, I want to move. Oops. What is that? Okay. Let me get the red. Okay. The -72 here, I want to move it to the left side. And it's going to become positive 72, right? And so when I rewrite it, I should get positive 72 equal to d plus 5 in parentheses square. And now we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did. And let me rewrite this. If you feel more comfortable, you can rewrite it as d plus 5 square equal to 72 is the same thing. All right, so we know that it is the d plus 5 to the second power. That's why I want to square root. So let's square root this. And then let's not forget the plus and the minus, because we know we're going to have two answers. And then plus minus square root of 72. Okay? So the square root and the square, they're going to cancel each other out. And I'm just going to go to the next here, right here. D plus 5 is equal to plus minus square root of 72. Okay? We can actually simplify this. I will simplify it at the end. And then all I have to do here is to solve for d, right? That's what we're solving for. So that means the positive 5, I want to move it to the right side. I'm going to have d is equal to negative 5 plus minus square root of 72. Okay? And you notice that I put the negative 5 in front of the square root, right? So yeah, you always want to put the value term before the square root term. Okay? So just good practice. And so that's it, right? That should be your answer. But you do have to simplify the square root number here, which is square root of 72. 72 is not a perfect square, so you need to kind of break it down as a square root of 9, or square root of 36, I'm sorry, times square root of 2, right? And so that's 6, and the square root of 2 stays as the same, so it's going to be d is equal to negative 5 plus minus 6 for the square root of 36, and then the square root of 2 remains under the radical. The square root of 2 stays the same. And that's it. You have two answers. One is d is equal to negative 5 plus 6 square root of 2. And then the other one, d is equal to negative 5 minus 6 square root of 2. Okay? So you still have two answers. And that is it. All right, hopefully it was helpful.